Yo, what up?
Gang, gang. I probably shouldn't throw that up. What up, y'all?
It's not like I make any money. What, they gonna demonetize the money I don't make?
I mean, maybe not, but like, I don't want anyone finding me.
Oh, that's fair enough. Yeah, don't rep false colors. Anyway, we're back. Top of the year. Well, I guess we're almost at the end of January at this point. If you saw our last video, we were going over movies that we are looking forward to this year. And what we're talking about today is not one of them. It's just a movie that dropped, and I didn't have any interest in seeing it because I don't really watch horror movies or thrillers or whatever. Um, yeah, but I heard the premise and I was intrigued, so called him up, dragged him to go see it. You've seen the title of the video by now, but to not leave you in suspense, it's M3gan. That's what we went to go see.
No, M3gan is how it's pronounced.
Yeah, every other YouTuber in the world has made that joke, which is why I didn't say it. You know what I mean? But I guess for the sake of the algorithm, even though I don't think I'm big enough for that to affect me, um, I guess I would have to spell it that way. And I guess I will spell it that way.
I mean, you actually should spell it that way because that's how it's stylized.
Why do I care about that?
Because if you didn't, you'd be representing a false movie. Like the movie actually is like titled M3gan.
Yeah, is that another movie called M3gan?
There might be, I don't know.
It's a pretty straightforward movie. It gets into some high concept ideas. I think it's not particularly long enough to go into all of those ideas the way I would have liked, but also it's the top of the year. It's you expect movies like that to be awful.
I particularly like the month of January.
I understand liking the month. I'm just saying for like content purposes. I mean, it's a business model. Anyway, could have stood to be a little bit longer. Well, I don't know if it could have stood to be longer. I wouldn't have minded if it was longer. If it could have kept the quality that it was going for. Because at a certain point, it feels like it abandoned a lot of its higher ranked ideas to be the kind of movie where people die. Which I mean, that's enjoyable.
Well, I mean, it also sets itself up for a sequel, spoiler alert. So I think everything that was introduced in this film that doesn't get fleshed out is going to get fleshed out in its sequel. I think there are a lot of ideas, and I don't exactly know which one you're talking about, so feel free to go into it. But I think there are a lot of ideas that are introduced that couldn't be done with the doll. You need something bigger, something a bit more encompassing. So now that we have the sequel bait, that's something that we can pump some of these larger ideas into.
I actually think the doll is the perfect element to do it through. This woman adopts a younger family member due to tragedy, but she's not a mother. She never has been a mother. She's not married or anything like that. She's a very career driven woman. So, for all intents and purposes, it's very suggestive that she was left to her own devices. She probably never would have gone down this road to begin with. But here she is in a situation. She works for a toy company. She's trying to make this revolutionary toy. She ends up creating M3gan, this very, the title doll, who's very like sophisticated, computerized, um, interactive toy that, from for better or worse, is very adaptable. Like it learns as it interacts with you, and it becomes more human and things like that. So one of the things that the movie like really gets into is the dangers of relying on technology to do your job for you, because she's not a mother. She doesn't necessarily know how to be a mother, but M3gan is so efficient at doing that job that she more or less lets M3gan take the reins. And as things get a little out of control in ways that I won't go into, um, she starts to realize perhaps she has made a mistake, but the claws are in so deep at that point that undoing what she has brought upon a child, and children are very impressionable, undoing that becomes a nearly impossible task. The reason I think the doll is the perfect modicum for relaying that message is because you need something with a face, because the whole idea of the movie, remember where they had that scene with the therapist, slight spoiler. The the whole idea with the therapist was that she was explaining to the mother, I can't remember her name. She explained to her, children, when they have lost someone, tend to want to attach themselves to whoever can fill that role.
Right.
So the fact that M3gan is humanoid,
Mm-hmm.
just it's a visual representation of what the movie is trying to get across as they're bringing the psychology into it. I just feel like based on what the sequel is suggesting is going to be, you might be looking at something faceless. I just think it would lose that magic.
It's very reminiscent to the 2019 version of Child's Play, where you have this doll that essentially becomes a sentient AI, something in its circuitry, whether its ability to learn and understand or wanting to protect becomes skewed or corrupted, and it kind of takes that and runs with it. I personally think that this is actually better than that, even though Child's Play is probably my favorite horror uh, medium.
Really,
Yeah, I love Child's Play. Child's Play is really fun for me, mainly because it taps into like my biggest phobia, which is
dolls.
creepy dolls and animatronics. Um,
You wear a Five Nights at Freddy's hat.
I love Five Nights at Freddy's.
Odd.
Yeah, I know, right? M3gan essentially does kind of similar beats. We get the doll latches itself to a kid, tries to figure out a way to protect the kid, shenanigans ensue. Now we got to deal with the doll. Um, what I don't mind though is I don't think it's difficult to take that and insert itself into multiple different mediums, right?
I have a personal story between this girl and this doll that feels its role is to be a guardian. That's not what it's intended to do. It's intended to be entertainment, and the line gets blurred from entertainment to whatever. And it's so topical because we're so digital now. It's very easy to fall into something like that. You can I don't want to sound like somebody from the older generation, but it's really hard to ignore the fact that it's so the the internet is raising people now. It just is.
Yeah.
Um, there's parents are less and less involved. Some because they don't want to be, but a lot because it's just easy not to be. Just more of a cautionary tale of why are you the smallest voice in your child's life? You know what I mean?
Right.
And I thought it was I thought it was well acted. I thought the kid was cool. I particularly like this part where the child is talking about her trauma, and she's like, I don't want to feel, this, that, and the third. And when I'm with M3gan, I don't feel these things. And the mother character just kind of sits with it. It's like, but you're supposed to feel those things. Like you should be angry. You should feel cheated. You should feel sad. Like all of these emotions that she's been burying and distracting herself from this entire time. And it's like you slow down. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like slow down and unplug and go through what you're supposed to go through. I know we're glorifying therapy more than we used to, and we're putting a bow on mental health, and that's good. That's a good start of the conversation. But I do think that we're still far too distracted. Um, I think that we're way too afraid of those ugly feelings. I think that a lot of our modern sensibilities that spook us away from these problematic ways of thinking um, have driven us away from the ability to have these hard conversations and talk about these complex feelings that people have, feelings of like resentment and sometimes hatred and bigotry and all of these other things. Like take the kid, the absolute dick of a kid from early in the movie, who
Well, it's kind of way at that point.
yeah, who you would say, who you could easily say got what he deserved, but did he get what he deserved? I mean, he was clearly designed to be sociopathic, you know what I mean? But we also see the kid, the main character. Why can't I remember her name? Why did you spell Katie with a D? Hi, editing hood here. Apparently the girl's name is Katie and it's spelled with a D. So this is an awful movie, and I hate it. We also see our protagonist operate in a very ugly way at a certain point in the movie, like where she just completely wows out her mother and acts very reminiscent of that child. And then it turns into it goes from this fucked up kid who is just a piece of garbage who got what he deserved to maybe he was just in the same kind of pain that this girl was in, and he didn't have the distraction that she had, because absent that distraction, this girl was a little monster too.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But she's just hurting. So I like that the movie had that conversation. I think it's a very important topic to bring up. It's one of the few times I've seen recently. I'm not saying it never happens, but it's one of the few times I've seen lately where a movie set out to have a message, but it didn't get too preachy, and it didn't compromise the enjoyment of the experience.
Movie as a whole, I thoroughly enjoyed. I think, to your point, it does express and explore a lot of those themes. It's kind of the point of the film, and I agree with you on a good portion of that, if not all of it. I really liked. I really liked the pacing, if that makes sense. The movie's not terribly long. It's a solid hour 45, just under 2 hours. It doesn't even feel like it just kind of moves. And I think that it's one of those things that it doesn't leave a lot in the way of like plot holes or devices that are untied or things like it sets up something and then it executes that thing and then we move on to the next point. And as robotic as that sounds, ironic for a movie like this, it actually works. It's rated PG-13, which I actually think is better for the film. I think there are a lot of moments in the film that would have, to use your phrasing, I feel like would have jumped the shark if it had tried to do it with an R rating. I've always been more intrigued by the implication because that just kind of lets your mind do all of the piecing together. And there's a lot of fuck this shit, I'm out moments. But I also really like kind of the arc that you see the main character go on. I think her name is Kate, but I feel like that's wrong. Like seeing her kind of start off as this person who is like, I am very focused on my work. I'm going to get Megan to work. Like, this is my goal. This is my dream. So much so to the point where she could potentially lose her job because she's focusing on this more than she's focusing on the other things that she should be focusing on in her company. There's a lot of drive, conviction there. And like that never goes away in the movie. You know, you always see her try and take the next step to be better. Or if not, you at least see her trying to think about the next step to, you know, find the solution to what the current problem is. It's great to have a thriller heroine or a horror heroine that isn't an idiot, because a lot of times, you know, you see people in these movies and they're just kind of dumb for no discernible reason of the fact that they're just dumb. So I really like that. It's at least refreshing that you can start off the year with a solid watch.
Yeah, it was nice. Very pleasant surprise. I'm glad that's the first thing I saw this year. It could have been much worse. In fact, I was expecting it to be much worse, which is why I'm especially happy that turned out better than I could have hoped.
Still trying to figure out what happened to the dog. We'll get our answers.
Life's great mysteries.
Yeah, right.